So today we're moving on to averages, which is a new topic for you, Year 8. So let's make a start. First of all, just pause the video now, have a go at the starter, spend 10 minutes on it maximum, and then play the video to mark your answers. Here are the answers to the starter. Pause this again and mark off your answers. So again, let's have a look. There's 4 words there. Scrambled up. Can you unscramble them to find the 4 different averages that we'll be looking at today? So pause the video, give yourself a minute. Can you unscramble them all? So you should have got mode, range, median and mean. Before we go on to working them out, first of all, what is an average? An average is the central value of the data, or you could say the typical value, so what you would expect. So for example, in our class, the average age of the class would be about 13. So out of all the data, out of everyone in our class, the average is 13 years old. So 4 different averages. First of all, we're going to have a look at the range. The range tells us the spread of the data, so how widely spread the sets of data we have. And how do we work it out? Well, we take the largest value or the biggest value and we take it away from the smallest value. So going straight into it, let's work out the range of this set of data here. Well, we said the range, we work it out by taking the biggest or the largest, take away the smallest piece of data. So the largest one in my set here is 12. The smallest I've got is 2. So the range of my data is 10. So there's a spread of 10 from the smallest number 2 to the biggest number 12. Your turn, have a look at the data, work out the range. So for the range you should have got biggest take away the smallest. Biggest, yours is also 12. The smallest piece of data is 4 for yours here, so you should have got a range of 8. Take about 5 minutes to have a go at these questions here. Don't only just work out the range, have a look at some of the questions. And for example, let's have a look at the 3rd and 4th question. Look very similar, however, the 22 is changed to 20. So once you've worked out the range, see how it's changed depending on what the numbers change as. So pause the video now, have a go at that. Brilliant, so mark your answers. Let's have a look at these 3 different questions though, in terms of how the range changes. This one here we've got 18 and it changed to 16 when 22 and 22 was changed to 20. Why did the range change by 2? Well, the number was decreased by 2 and therefore the range decreased by 2. But having a look at the 3rd and 4th, sorry, the 2nd and 3rd ones, so this question and this question here, what changed? The 12 changed to 10. So why didn't the range change for that one? They both were 16. Why didn't the range change if 12 changed to 10? Well, the reason the range didn't change was because we work it out by taking the biggest value, take away the smallest, and the 12 and the 10 were neither the biggest or smallest. So it doesn't matter what those values changed to, as long as it wasn't the biggest or the smallest, it keeps the range the same. So really well done if you were noticing those changes. On to the summary slide. We've done the range, we're moving on to the median. The median is the middle value. I always try and get us to remember it as median, sounds a little bit like middle. So median, middle. How do we work it out? Well, we've got to do a few steps for this one. First step is order the numbers from smallest to biggest. And step 2 is find the middle number. So we've got to find the middle number. Sometimes a question will try and trick you out by not having it in size order to start off with. So you've always got to put it in order and then find the middle number. Okay, so I've got to find the median of this data. Notice it's the same set of data. That's going to help us at the very end of the lesson. So the first step, remember, is I've got to put it in order. So what is the smallest number in my list? It's this 2 here. So I'm crossing them off as I go along. The next smallest is 5, and I've got 2 5s, so I've got to include both of them in the list. Then it's 6, and I've actually got 3 lots of 6, so I've got to include all 3 of them in the list. And the last one is 12. Okay, now finding the middle, you can either put one finger at the end of each and bring them in, or you can cross them out. So I'm going to cross the 2 and the 12 out. Then the next one in is 6 and 5, cross those 2 out. Then the next one, another 6 and 5, and I'm left with this 6 being in the middle of the data. So the median for this set is 6. Your turn, pause the video, find the median. Okay, so you should have ordered the data. You should have 3 4s at the start. Then the next biggest is 7, and the next is 8, then 10, then 12. We've done step 1. Now I've got to find the middle number. 4 and 12 I'm going to cross out because they're on the edges. Then the next one's in the edges, and the next one. And there we have our median being 7. Okay, just another example. I've got the same list of data, but I've added a 5 on the end. I've still got to find the median, so I've still got to order them. So let's order them again. 2 at the start, 5, 5, 5. Then the next biggest is 6, 6, 6, and lastly 12. Step 1 done. Then I need to find the middle value. So cross off the 2 and the 12, then 6 and 5, then 5 and 6. But now I'm left with 2 values here. I can't cross them both off because that will leave me with nothing. So the middle value would actually be here in between 5 and 6. So when you have this even number of pieces of data, so I've got 8 bits there, you're left with this gap here. So the median is the number that is halfway between 5 and 6. Well, what number is halfway between 5 and 6? Well, it's 5.5. So that's now my median. So when you get to this point here, with a gap in the middle, you need to find halfway between the two. I've added a 5 onto the end of that bit of data, so you have a go at that question there. Okay, so you should have ordered them from smallest to biggest. Now let's find the middle value. So crossing them off as we go along in pairs, 4 and the 8. And we're left with 2 here. We want this central bit there. Sometimes it's more obvious, but other times we need to find the halfway point between 5 and 7. Well, that's going to be 6. A quick way to find the midpoint, if it's not as easy as just being able to see it, you can add the 2 numbers. So here I could have done 5 plus 6, and then you divide by 2, and that would have given me 5.5. Or this one here, you can add the 2 numbers. 5 add 7 gives me 12, and then half it, so that would have given me 6 as well. Okay, doing the same thing, have a look at these questions. Can you find the median of the answers? Most of them have been quite nice and done step 1 for you and put them in the right order. Some of them haven't, so just be careful with that. And do the same as we did with the range. The similar questions, see how adding a number or changing a number affects the answer to the median. Pause the video now. Okay, mark them off. Notice this one and this one. So the difference between there to there, they've just put a 1 at the front here. They've added a 1 to the set of data. And what happened to the median? Well, it decreased. Well, by including that 1 there, the median's going to decrease because you've got an extra value which is lower down. So we would expect the median to decrease as well. So we're halfway. We've covered range and median. Now on to mode. So mode means the most common number. Try and remember it using mode equals most. So they both start with MO. This is the easiest one to calculate, and we literally just look at the list and find the one that's repeated the most number of times. So this won't take that long. Let's have a look at this here. This set of data, what's the mode? Well, the mode is the most common number. I've got 2 5s, 1 12, 1 2, and I've got 3 6s. So 6 comes up the most number of times, so the mode is 6. Your turn now. You won't need to write anything down, just have a look. What's the mode? You'll notice that the mode is 4. It turns up 3 times, which is more than any other number. We won't have any practice of that, that's quite straightforward. Last one to cover is the mean. So, the mean, try and remember this one as being the meanest of all the averages, as it requires the most number of steps. We calculate it by adding all the numbers together and dividing by the total of numbers there are. What do I mean by that? So there's 2 steps. The first one is to add all the numbers, and the second step is to divide by how many there are. So step 1 here would be to do 5 plus 6 plus 12 plus 2, 6 plus 5. So we could use a calculator for these, or I'm going to do it in my head. 5 plus 6 is 11, add 12 is 23, add 2 is 25, add 6 is 31, add 5 is 36, add 6 is 42. So the first step, adding them all together, I get 42. The second step, remember, is I've got to then divide by how many there are. Well, how many numbers are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I've got to divide by 7. So I've got to do 42 divided by 7, which gives me an average of 8. We can double check to see if that's a suitable mean. Does 8 lie within the data? Well, it's between 2 and 12, which are the smallest and biggest numbers. So 8 seems about a sensible answer. So always check your answer seems sensible. If I'd calculated the mean as, let's say, 50, that wouldn't seem correct, because out of the data I've got 5, 6, 12, 2, 6, 5, 6. Well, none of those values are close to 50, so that would be a silly answer to have. So make sure you check your answer seems about right and it lies within the range of the data. Pause the video now, have a go. Can you find the mean of your data? Okay, so the first step, we've got to add all the numbers together. And by adding all the numbers together, we should have got 49. The second step is we've got to do whatever those were added together, divided by how many there are. How many numbers are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 numbers again. So I'm dividing by 7 again. How many 7s go into 49? 7 7s go into 49. So my mean is 7. Does that seem a sensible answer? Well, yeah, it lies between about 4 and 12. So that's about right. Okay, last bit of practice here. Pause the video and have a go. Again, try and see how, let's say, for example, this question here, the 21 changes to 16. How does that then affect the mean? And think about why it maybe does that. Here are answers, so check them off. The question we said about the 21 changing to 16, what happened to the mean? Well, it decreased. So we had exactly the same numbers up until 21 to 16. It decreased, didn't it? So therefore we would expect the mean to decrease as well. So mark them off. Notice as well, these negative numbers, you can have a negative number for your mean as well. You still do the same method. So for summary, we've got the range, which was the largest, take away the smallest, the median, where we order the numbers and find the middle, the mode, the most appearing number, and the mean, adding the numbers together and dividing by the total there are. So there's 4 different types of averages there. Those of you who notice, we use the same numbers every time for the your turn, my turn. As you can see, so for my data, I got 9666. So the different averages give us different numbers. So the range gave us 9, and luckily for mine, the median, mode, and mean all gave 6. For your side of data, you had a range of 8, and then the median, mode, and mean gave different values. So each of the averages sort of give a different sort of average, and we'll be moving on to later on in the next lessons, having a look at when it's best to do the median, when it's best to do the range, when it's best to do the mode, and when it's best to do the mean. So we'll move on to that in upcoming lessons. But well done for today.